I often hear that the standards for mathematical practice are kind of hard to wrap your mind around because of some of the mathematical or meaty language in the practice standards. So I'm going to quickly go through 8 posters that my school district uses to help teachers and students make sense of the practice standards. The first poster is for make sense of problem solving or make sense of problems and persevere in solving them. Now, this poster just touches on a couple pieces for this practice, but it basically says that we should be able to read a problem carefully and make sense of it, not just apply some quick tricks to solving. Understand the question that it's asking, and then try a solution path and know if that solution path is working or not, and know when we need to try a different path. When we get an answer, we then determine if our answer is reasonable or not. Practice standard number 2 is directly related to that first one, and this one is reason abstractly and quantitatively. So we will represent situations using math. We will decontextualize, so that means we're going to pull those numbers right out of a math problem and just work with those numbers. And then once we have an answer, we're going to put that answer right back into the problem, which is contextualizing, to see if that answer makes sense. Decontextualize means I take the numbers out and work with them. Contextualizing means I put that answer back into the situation, see if it makes sense in the context of that situation. Practice standard number 3 is construct viable mathematical arguments and be able to critique the reasoning of others. So for the first thing, we have to construct arguments. Say the things that you believe will happen in math. I believe that anytime I switch the factors in a multiplication problem, I will get the same product. Once you make those conjectures or those belief statements, you have to be able to test and argue whether or not your belief statement is true. We have to ask each other questions about our thinking. We have to listen to each other. And then we have to argue our mathematical argument to decide if we agree or disagree with each other. Practice standard number 4 is modeling with mathematics. This practice standard means that I will use mathematics to make sense of problems in my world. I will represent math using a variety of representations. And the math is math in my world. I can use objects, drawings, symbols, spoken word, or if I'm given maybe just an equation, I can represent that equation with a real world situation. So this comes down to when I'm faced with something in my life or in my world, a real problem, I can use mathematics to represent it and solve the problem. The practice standard number 5 is using appropriate tools strategically. I know what tools are available to me, and I can select the best tool to use for the situation. I also can make estimates about what answer I think I will get using that tool, and then check to see if my answers are reasonable based on my estimates. Practice standard number 5 is attend to precision. Practice standard number 6 is attend to precision. I will decide how precise I need to be depending on the situation. I will decide, can I just make an estimate or do I need an exact answer? I will also attach units to my answer to help other people understand what I am saying. So if I told my teacher the answer is 5, my teacher doesn't know if that means 5 cents, 5 dimes, $5. I have to attach a unit to it for it to make sense in that context. And when I talk about my answer, I will also, or when I just talk about a situation, I will make sure I use appropriate mathematical vocabulary to communicate my thinking. Practice standard number 7 is looking for structure in math. Understanding that math should make sense. There is a structure of how numbers and mathematics works, and I will look for that and make sense of that as I am working with mathematics. And then practice standard number 8 is I notice patterns in math, and I can use those patterns to take shortcuts or to help me find the answer. So for example, I'm looking at this hundreds chart here, and I'm starting to notice patterns, and those patterns help me more easily find those missing numbers. Below this video, I am going to drop a link to a document. Now, this has friendly language in it, and this should help you further make sense of the practice standards. Now, while these practice standards are student behaviors or things students will do when they engage with mathematics, there's also certain things the teacher has to do to set up the student for using those behaviors or using those practices.